no way that this could be real, as this creature reached its hand out over my sister's chest and a blue mist came out. I remember just screaming for my mom and my dad.
I lived next to a pretty big military base, and airplanes were always coming and going. However, it suddenly expanded and then shrunk back down to its original size, then zoomed off almost like a shooting star.
14 years ago, my family and I lived in a converted apartment for a mental health facility. At the time, my son was 3 and used to get nightly visitors in his room that would bother him daily.
Welcome, class. I'm your host, Mr. Zach Schlager. Alongside me, my cohort in all things supernatural, Mr. Joel Jackson, and you are tuned in to Beyond the Bell podcast. Welcome, class. This is a very, very special Teacher Lounge episode that Mr. Jackson and I have brought to you today. Mr. Jackson, we are covering
The Las Vegas alien story.
Ooh, cue the X-Files theme.
Oh, yeah. And a story about a TikTok video that's going viral of a ghost messing with the nursing staff at the Baylor Scott Hospital in Dallas.
Love it. So class, buckle in, get ready. You are access to the coveted Teachers Lounge. This is Beyond the Bell podcast.
But before we start, I want to address something that's pretty serious and has come to my attention.
Wait. How serious are we talking, man?
Pretty serious, Zach. There's been a lot of controversy and debate on our Facebook group page.
Okay.
I want to go on the record and make a statement.
Under oath, on air.
There's been a lot of debate on whether or not, Zach, you are a Skinwalker.
I'll never tell.
And those allegations are 100% false.
Thank you, Joel.
Zach, aren't you actually a Wendigo, which is a completely different cryptid from Native American folklore that originated in the northeastern part of the United States? Am I correct?
I haven't swabbed 23andMe, so I don't know.
Don't do that. Okay, don't put your DNA.
I'm gonna give him my DNA.
No, don't do it. That's what my parents wanted to do, and I was like, no, can't. Okay, they can't. I don't want them to track me.
But what if I get a cool clone out of it?
You could.
With like an eye down here on part of the cheek, like Sloth from Goonies.
Daddy.
Hey, you guys.
But seriously, okay, I want to make.
Am I a Wendigo? Last time I checked, no. But you know what people call me all the time? Awesome, but they also call me a wizard. So
that is true.
I'm starting to believe it a little bit.
He's a wizard in the classroom, man.
I'm a wizard in the classroom, baby.
You are, dude. But seriously, we want to make an announcement about our social media account.
They're shutting us down.
Not yet. But since the release of our last episode, we have jumped in YouTube subscription from 24 members to currently 70 members.
70?
70, baby. And the great thing about this is that according to the YouTube analytics, the majority of those new subscribers were first-time listeners.
Hey, man, we're
attracting people.
Yeah, we're getting some traction.
Also, in total, we have over 7,000 views.
Whoa.
And our last episode just broke 3,000 views with over 70 likes, man.
Dude, I'm going to throw this out there. The reason why is because Mr. Jackson holds it down. Okay, we are still full-time teachers. We are still winding this year down. I think it's busier than ever than it has been all year, at least in our elementary sector. But the fire memes, okay, come from Mr. Joel Jackson. He's the heart and the soul of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
I appreciate it, Zach, man. That truly means a lot to me and motivates me just to keep on going at it, man. But I have a funny story, okay? So it's the end of the year. We're all tired, man. I don't know about you, but before we recorded this, I was sleeping in the corner of my room.
I believe it.
And I've been having a lot of late nights, and I did the laundry. Okay, this was about 2 weeks ago. I've been waiting to share this story.
Yes.
Okay, so I go to get my khaki slacks, and I put them on, and I'm walking out the door, and I'm going to school, and then I come into my classroom, and my classroom has its own bathroom because I'm really cool like that.
Yeah, you have luxury like that.
And I realize, that in my back pocket, an article of my wife's clothing was stuck in my back pocket, hanging out like a do-rag. I don't want to say what type of clothing. I'll let you guys imagination fill that in. But I was walking around all day, and I'm glad no one at school saw me because oh man, I love my wife.
Okay, please don't ever grunt deeply and make deep eye contact with me like that ever again.
Zach, we talked about this. I love making eye contact with you.
I know, man, but this is coming unhinged real fast.
Real fast. All right. So let's get into the main topic of today. So we're covering some recent news stories regarding the paranormal in this episode. And our first story, it's not a news story. Well, it kind of is. It's a UFO sighting. Last year, around this exact same time, actually
April, right?
April 30th,
Yeah.
there was a meteor that shot through the western half of the United States. Okay,
Yeah,
and it's been proven by the meteorological. What do you call it?
There's scientific community.
Yeah, some scientific community that it was a meteor.
Yep.
However, in Las Vegas, reportedly a fireball came down from the meteor, landed in someone's backyard. Okay, and a family who just moved into that house not that long ago called the police and said something crashed in the backyard, and there are two beings in the backyard also.
Right.
And this crash was supported by a police officer who's in the nearby area. He saw the crash happen or something fall. Mm-hmm. And I just want to give you guys a little bit of background information. This happened on Walpurgis Night, which is an old traditional holiday in Northern Europe, in Scandinavia. And it's very similar to Halloween. It's basically a time when people would dress up in costumes and they would hang greenery in their house, in front of their house, in their barns, and they would light bonfires to ward off evil spirits.
As one does.
And just like most traditional holidays in Europe, it goes back to before Christianity.
Okay.
And it goes back to like pagan times when supposedly witches would gather on large mounds and they would summon in all these spirits, evil spirits and creatures, because they believed that like the ether was thinner, and so allowed them to come into our world. So
sounds like a party.
People kind of did all these traditions to ward off evil spirits. And also, Walpurgis Night is named after a saint, Walpurgis, and she was known for a lot of things, but she's specifically known for warding off witches and witchcraft. So this event happened during this holiday, which is kind of makes it kind of creepy, because if you watch the original video, you see that they claim those aliens, okay, above the fence line. Mm-hmm. You see a being, mm-hmm. and you don't see him fully, but he's like, his opacity was kind of like, what's the word, the way to describe it?
He was almost like see-through, wasn't he?
See-through. It's like in Signs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of made like a connection between those two events. Maybe something was like coming through.
I mean, this is kind of like a discussion that I had with my sister at one point, talking about living out in West Texas, and she brought up that there's places on Earth that she feels that the veil is thinner, and you look at the desert and the bayou and all these places where cryptids are so heavily reported with UFO activity, and it just, you wonder why, right?
Yeah.
And then why would this happen to really an ordinary family? And then what would they have to gain from that if they're not obviously seeking we made this up, we're going to tie it into a book deal, movie deal, make stacks of cash?
Yeah, and this kid, he's not making. He said it in the interview. He's not trying to become famous. He hasn't made any videos about it. He hasn't done any social media appearances. He just kind of wants it to go away.
You know, Mr. Jackson, I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, I would not want to be set up for, any online or public ridicule to make a story up and be dismissed by it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, who wants that at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
That's a wild, man. Like, I just imagine being at home and then you hear, I don't know what you would hear, something, and you look out. Like, what's your first go-to response? You look in your backyard and you see a 8 to 10 foot being.
Well, Zach, I'll be honest with you. I'm like your stereotypical Texan. Whenever there's a tornado coming, the first thing I want to do is go out to my front porch and look at it.
Heaven forbid if the aliens landed in our backyard in Texas. Like, arms on the hips, dirty white stained barbecue T-shirt, just in our lovely jam shorts that don't need to see the light of day or people in Walmart, just looking at it. And then you know what comes next, being in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Bang, bang, man.
We're lighting them up, buddy.
Bang, bang.
We're lighting them up.
Yeah.
What else are we going to do? It's like...
We're gonna shoot it and put it on top of our trucks.
It'll be
show
like
around town.
Yeah, one of my favorite science fiction movies of all times is Tremors, and the dude that hunts them has one of them mounted on his fireplace. That's the centerpiece right there.
Yeah,
they came, they tried.
I can't remember the quote.
I don't know either. I was just making it up. I was living in the moment for a second.
I love it because as a history teacher, you were doing like I came, I saw, I conquered.
And I was thinking about the flag. They come and take it.
Oh, come and take it. Yeah.
And they did not. But that's wild, man. So let's get back to the story because we actually have a transcript also of these 911 logs. And what I found interesting was the dispatched officers also en route were very hesitant to show up to the residence, right?
Yeah, I'm very hesitant.
So here we are, trained officers, trained in high-capacity situations to deal with whatever insane thing that they're about to walk into, are looking at each other going, I don't know about this. Like that also, to me, raised a lot of interesting, not red flags of, oh, this is not valid, but more curiosity about, like, why are they so nervous? Being officers, being on the front lines of society, that's, I don't know.
And I bet they're pretty experienced officers too, because they're working in Las Vegas. So I bet you see some
100%.
stuff. Yeah, you'll see a lot of weird stuff there.
Yeah, I'm about to throw the teacher's name out under the bus, but I will not if she's listening. I will not. Frequent visitor. But we have the dispatch log that Joel and I would like to recreate for you right now. So playing the disturbed, nervous caller, debut acting since 10th grade, back in the acting saddle. The caller will be played by Mr. Joel Jackson. I will be the dispatcher. And 3, 2, 1, the theater, action.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one is inside us, and it has big eyes, and it looks at us, and it's still there.
Okay. Where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God. This is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified.
So there's 2 people. There's 2 subjects in your backyard?
Correct. And they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot tall. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes. Like, I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes. And they're human. They're 100% not human.
Okay. Scene. That was beautiful, man.
It was.
That's Academy worthy right there. If we don't get nominated, at least voted in on a technicality.
For sure. For sure. I don't know if they have like Oscars for podcasts, but we should get something.
We should get something.
So then, shortly after this call, they radio a nearby police officer, and he confirms that he also saw something fall from the sky. And this is his quote. He says, "I'm so nervous right now," one officer said as he's preparing to drive to the house. "I have butterflies, bro. I saw a shooting star, and now these people say there's aliens in their backyard." And then they basically come from the same thing. It's a big creature. And he comes up and he talks to one of the witnesses and it says, hey, I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, the officer said. So that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard? And then the witness says, I don't believe in it, but what I saw right now, I do believe in it. I think that's kind of telling because he says, like, he doesn't believe in the stuff he saw, but he saw it, right?
Mm-hmm. I like the quote that I'm looking at right here because it says, you guys seem like legit scared, so I don't blame you, an officer replied. So, again, you're trained in reading emotional responses, right? You're trained in crisis intervention. This may or may not be your first rodeo, like you said, especially in Las Vegas. So that, to me, that's very telling of like what their physiological signs look like at the time. Like you're mad panicked about something. Again, why? Why would you make it up to that nth degree if something didn't happen that you can't explain, right?
Reading the articles from preparing for this episode, in every article's comment section, you see, this is like the first time I've ever seen it about a paranormal article. You see almost every single comment saying, I believe this guy. I believe his story. Because if you look at his interview he did recently, look at his body posture, how he's like kind of like rubbing his arms, and you can even like see goosebumps while he's talking about it. It looks authentic. And then when you look at the video, the original video, you don't see them looking at their side, okay? And if you look at an aerial, photo of the property, it's a huge backyard.
Yeah.
Like absolutely huge, and they have like 10 of these RVs, but they're looking back and they're seeing something, and then you see them react to that, which is almost like you can tell when someone's like fake at reacting.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But they're not looking at what's beside them in the video.
Right.
They're looking ahead, and then so they saw something back there, and then that was creepy because like if it was fake, you'd expect them to react to the thing on the side.
Right.
But that's not how it is in the video.
Yeah, it all points to authentic.
Yeah.
Authentic reaction, authentic experience, which again, we joke about it, but this is the whole reason why we started this whole thing. We had experiences that affected us in a way that still lingers. I worked at the church for 9 years. You worked at the boarding school, but still left us with a lasting effect. And I can only imagine, again, what is the most vulnerable environment that you can think of to have an experience?
Probably
is at
home. Yeah, it's
right?
where you're most comfortable.
You go home, you go through your routine, you unwind, and you're expecting to have a chill night, get the dinner with the missus, put on your favorite show, and then this happens, and it's wild, man. I love it. I feel bad because I have no doubt that this man has some trauma. There's some Bigfoot cases out there that, some credible sources that people go in and then they come out almost with signs and symptoms of PTSD. So who knows, man? Let's continue on. So the officers get there. They kind of also are on the same boat of hesitancy with, we kind of believe them. We saw something in the sky on the way here.
Let's back up a little.
Okay.
Just 1 second, Zach.
Yeah.
Interesting part of the story. Okay, so after the crash, apparently Angel, that's the witness who called in the police. And he went outside. He was working on a truck in his on his backyard or something, and he sees the crash or hears the crash or whatever, and he goes back to see it. Okay, back to check it out, and he sees one of the beings. Okay, and then he claims that he almost becomes like paralyzed with fear. Okay, like he can't move. He's staring at it. He says time kind of like almost like slows down, and he's staring at this being, and it's like growling like a dog. And he was entranced by it, and he says he closed his eyes, and he said he prayed, and then the thing let him go, and he was able to go inside to make the police call. Now, reading the articles from back last year and some of the more recent ones right now, you see that they edited out the praying part. He said he closed his eyes in the quote section and the thing disappeared. Mm-hmm. And that made me really, really just kind of like suspicious of whether, was it really an alien? Mm-hmm. And then he also claims early on that it was either like an alien or demon also. Mm. And this report wasn't in any of the articles, but it was in, it was on the Confessional Podcast. I can't remember who he was interviewing, mm-hmm. but he said that the family actually, after he came back inside, the creatures or beings, they got on top of the house, the roof of the house, and they're roaming around. And the family's petrified, and then they gather in a circle because the family's very religious,
yeah.
and they start praying in the circle.
Yeah. And
then the things jump off, and they call 911. And that just kind of resonates with so many abduction cases of, I can't remember the guy who, I think his name was Joseph, but he was the former MUFON director of something to do with Florida.
Okay.
And he became a Christian, and he started compiling all these cases of people who were abducted but prayed to God or called upon God, and their abduction ended. Okay, not being like over 300 of these cases, and they're not being abducted by aliens, but they're
in the process of.
Yeah,
right?
And they call upon God, and the thing ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, man, at the end of the day, again, I just experienced this like 30 minutes ago. Data proves a lot.
Yeah.
And you have 300 documented sources of data to prove whatever these people were experiencing once they invoked the name of Christ, whatever they were experiencing that was malevolent in nature, it stopped. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not, you have a dozen or so. That's 300, if not more, data-driven points. And
that's collected. Who knows how many of these cases went undocumented, too.
Yeah. That's wild, man.
And so I make that point because in the most recent article that came to our attention and made us want to do this episode, it was titled, More Demonic Incidents at Las Vegas UFO House, Teen. And basically, it was...
Wait. Is this from your personal subscription to Teen, or did you actually find this?
I am actually a lifelong subscriber to Teen ever since I was 13 years old.
You got to keep up with the Beebs.
It was what's her face?
Avril Lavigne.
No, she was fine too. But the one
this is right there, bud.
Was it Hillary Duff? Yes, Hillary Duff.
I'm not supporting this. I'm not supporting this right now.
But I found the true love of my life.
Oh, there we go.
He's an incredible rock star, audio technician, car repairman.
Shout out. Car repairman.
This is a true story. So when I was dating my wife, Hannah, early on, I was doing Uber Eats, okay? I was a teacher I wasn't even a teacher. I was kind of like a teacher's aide. And I was doing Uber Eats in the night to earn a little extra cash. And my car's headlights aren't the best because I had an accident a while back. And I'm driving, and I drive off the road. And I guess like the front bumper kind of like, it was like I had a bat wing type of deal going on. And I was just so like frustrated. And my wife said, I can clip that back on for you. And I said, no, you can't, Hannah. Okay. And I just like foolishly like dismissed my wife's like, incredible mind. And she keeps on like bringing it up. I could fix that. And like a couple of days go by, and she says, okay, I'm just going to fix it. And she goes down and she fixes it like perfectly. And it was funny because I went to a body repair shop, and they said, oh yeah, this could be like a $2,000 to fix it. And then Hannah comes in and just clicks it back on. So that's one of the reasons I love my wife. So anyways, back to this article. Okay. So this was like an anniversary piece, coming back and kind of interviewing the family 1 year after the event.
Right.
And they ask him, hey, how are you after this event? How has it impacted you? Well, the family says, oh, yeah, it's still impacting us. And the guy's like, how? Well, now we're experiencing some very like poltergeist or almost demonic activity in the article. And he goes on to mention that he had a cross in his house. And there's like a statue of Jesus on the cross. And it was hung up on the wall. It lifts up off the wall, and then you see in mid-air the Christ statue and
They
cross.
separate?
They separate, yeah. It pulls apart, and they fly in separate directions off the wall.
Whoa, holy beep.
And then he also claims he saw his family's Bible, which was in the living room. There's no wind, no air conditioning, nothing was blowing. And you see it open, and then the pages start fluttering back and forth. And
you said that was on a family Bible?
yeah, on a family Bible.
Because, I mean, so Hispanic culture, they have like these family Bibles that have been passed down. And I'm not even joking, man. They're like the size of my elbow to the tip of my fingers. They are like
they're
thick
big
books, man. I mean, to flip it open and, the separating though.
Yeah. And then
I would have sold the house.
Yeah, I would have sold the house too, man.
Instantly, just leave it in there as is.
I would have recorded a couple podcasts about it first, then sold it.
You would.
I would have sold it to Zach Baggins, actually, and tried to make a lot of money.
Yeah, he probably would buy it.
Say it's the next Amityville house.
Say it's the next that other house that he had.
Yeah.
And conveniently got torn down that nobody could go into afterwards.
Yeah. One story I love about him is like, do you remember the story of how he bought the Dybbuk box?
No.
No.
I don't. I mean, he annoys me. I can't watch him that often, and so I don't.
Okay.
But that's okay. I mean, tell me.
So the story of the Dybbuk box appeared in the early 2000s, and basically it was an eBay purchase. Some guy claimed to have gotten this Dybbuk box, which in Hebrew culture is a way that Jewish people would confine evil spirits. Okay, and it was a box, and they put things in the box, and they did some type of ritual, and they were able to trap the spirit in the box. However, if you open the box, then you release the spirit.
Well, yeah.
Okay, and so it goes on. It sells on eBay for like $300, and basically it creates all this controversy. And supposedly there's like this guy, he bought it, he gave it to his grandmother. His grandmother had a huge stroke that almost like demobilized her, paralyzed her. And then, anyways, so Zach Baggins, he buys the box for, I don't know, some extraordinary amount of money. And then later on, they find out, because the story went viral, that there's no such thing as a Dybbuk box in Hebrew culture. So he spends all this money trying to buy this thing, and it's just fake. He did a huge documentary about it, and it's just, and they realized there's no such thing as, and they actually, I can't remember what podcast I was listening to. They bought one supposedly, and they put it through an X-ray machine to see what's inside, and it was just like a cup, and they realized that they found the same cup on, I think it was like Amazon.
It's haunted by Bezos.
Bezos, man. But anyway, so in this article, he's just telling how, again, the family hasn't changed their story. They're saying the same story. They haven't tried to profit off the story.
Right.
They're talking about how many home intrusions they've had. People try to break into the backyard to see everything. And then the reporter asks, "Oh, how has this impacted your life?" And he says, obviously he's traumatized by it. You can tell. But then he starts talking about this paranormal activity. And what's interesting is now you start seeing it in the articles, the quote that they put in, he called upon Jesus, or he said a prayer and the thing went away. So I found that interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that when we're fed the story a little bit, when it has to do with only quote unquote space aliens, that they remove some of the spiritual aspect.
But what's interesting is all these kind of stories, if you talk about fairies, people seeing fairies, UFO abductions, demonic possessions, they all have some type of similarities. It's a very similar phenomenon.
Yeah. There's always a common thread that it can always be woven through a lot of these stories. I mean, even in our own stories, we were talking beforehand about all the things that we experience, and we're like, well, yeah, did you have this? Yeah, I had this. Yeah, I had this. Yeah, I had that. And it's, you can talk to somebody else that has another experience, other guests that we have coming on the show, and it's similar. It's like, well, there's some paintings or some spot in the apartment, and it all ties together, and it's, we're not all sitting in the same room trying to flesh these stories out to, make it make-believe. It happened. Yeah. And, at least for me, it's not something that I asked for, to add on my resume to make me look better. Like, oh, I would love to work here because it's haunted and I make cool stories that people may or may not believe,
Zach's like her
Mr. Jackson,
elementary school teacher in Demon Slayer.
Yeah, that's exactly what, at Hotmail.
Yeah, Hotmail, yeah.
But, and that's what I find fascinating with this. It's again, the steam will die down. These people are going to have to go back and live normal lives, but they're going to carry this with them, and how do they find closure, or how do they move on from this stuff? Like, I mean, how did it still lives with you probably, all the stuff at the boarding school. Yeah. You kind of, you might run into something else, and then it prompts that memory back. And, that's what's so interesting also sometimes about these, like, what I would call, like, supernatural or paranormal traumatic events, is that we can move on from it. We can forget about it. Life happens. We get married. We build a future, and then something happens, and it prompts us right back to what we were feeling. I mean, looking around your lovely decorated classroom, the age-old question was, where were you when the Twin Towers fell? It's traumatic for everybody. We remember exactly what we were doing in that moment, and this is no different. I mean, you're going to remember this, Oh, wild stuff, man.
Wild stuff. And I'm 100% certain, like, this will be the UFO event of the century. Because it's such well documented, multiple people.
Well, you have the credibility.
Yeah, the credibility.
Of it, and credibility in not only, for Pete's sakes, just take the homeowner's advice for what it is. Because if that's not weighted in anything, then this whole article's garbage. But take the witnesses and the experiencers for their weight as truth, but then also look at the professionals that surrounded themselves with it. It was decorated police officers that were on their body cam footage and car cam footage of, okay, I'm nervous. And
speaking of car cam, I forgot to mention there was also a neighbor that collaborated the story, and he had Ring cameras all around the area where the supposed landing happened. And while the landing was happening, they all malfunctioned all at once.
I mean, okay, so looking at, do you know what happened Tuesday?
No, what happened Tuesday?
So we had something called an X. Oh, don't
quote
me.
The flare?
Yeah. The solar flare that was in the level X range, which is pretty detrimental, right? So excluding something like that happening, where you're telling me that all the cameras, and so in such a small confined area, went down at the same time. I don't know, man. Like, I turned 40. All right. The older I get, the less I believe in coincidence, and the more I believe in either definitive things happening. And so I don't see how that would happen accidentally around that house specifically, where they just went offline. Unless it's the government.
The government. On that note, let's move on to our next story. And this is a local news story that's going viral again. Zach, you want to tell us about it?
So here we are. We have come across a video that is blowing up TikTok about ghost, I would say, harassing with hospital staff at a hospital here in Dallas. And not here in Dallas. We're in Fort Worth. Way better. But
way better.
And Dallas is nearby. It's our neighboring big city.
Unfortunately.
But, it is what it is. However, on the TikTok video, we'll provide links to all these. I'm
definitely. In the description section.
In the description section. So check it out. But, what I watched a little bit of is you'll have, it sounded like voices. It was doors opening and closing, which we've experienced here in our own school building. Oh my gosh, what else was there, Mr. Jackson?
That was about it.
That was it?
You heard
laughing.
And then doors slamming. And then the people recording it. Her name, her tag was Lady V. Lady V, she was just freaking out along with one of her coworkers, which I would be too.
Yeah. You know what I'm freaked out about right now?
What?
Your mannequin behind you right now. I keep looking at it and I'm like, if it moves, I'm going to hit this mic over and I'm out. Because I'm just like, I'm watching it. Like, it reminds me like a I Am Legend.
Okay, a side story. Okay,
buckle in.
Okay, so it's in the end of the year. We've been winding down, and the past 2 weeks I've been trying to kill time because I'm caught up with all my grading. I don't want to grade anymore, and I've been playing for my classes the old "Are You Afraid of the Dark" episodes.
Oh yeah.
And there's this one about a mannequin.
Oh, gross.
And all the kids were freaking out about my mannequin in the classroom after watching that. I love that show, man. That show terrified me, man.
Yeah. I don't remember it that well. I'll be honest, I don't remember it that well.
You got to watch it. Like now they're just like
cheesy.
And you can tell from the 90s acting. But as a little kid watching those just terrified me. Especially the pinball one when the kid gets trapped in the mall. Like he was and then the school that had a pool and there was like some type of like ghost evil spirit in the pool that was like drowning people. That was a good one too.
You know, when I think about it, in the early 90s, we had a lot of paranormal shows aimed at kids.
Yeah, Goosebumps, man. Goosebumps was blown up.
Erie, Indiana. Did you ever watch that one?
Erie, Indiana.
If you're listening and you know of the hospital that's on TikTok, I've reached out to a couple of contacts. They're going to get back with us. But if you know and you want to be on the show, hit us down in the contact section and let us know what's going on, because we need more proof. We need to hear from you what's going on. Right, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, we need to hear you.
I love it. And finally, we're going to wrap up with one of my, I think, most interesting titles. Here we are with a family in Zimbabwe reportedly terrorized by invisible goblins.
Dude, I loved this story. This is like my favorite story out of reading all of them.
This was it, man.
The quotes are awesome.
The quotes. Well, let's get into it.
Okay, so basically, goblins are a big deal in Africa. They call them a different name, which I cannot pronounce, and I'm not going to even try. But there's a lot of activity with goblins in this part of Africa. And it's very similar, Zach, to poltergeist activity. I almost want to call it a poltergeist instead of goblins. Mm-hmm. But, and especially in this case right here with this family. Okay, so it's in Zimbabwe. This family, this couple, they have 3 kids, 3 teenagers, all in school. They have, again, stereotypical poltergeists. They also have their grandparents with them. And the activity happened.
I'm sorry if you caught me chuckling there. I jumped ahead and my eye caught one of the quotes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Okay, so I got to read this. We don't know what to do anymore. It started last November. One morning, our children woke up with their heads shaved. I can't.
Keep on going.
We thought it was a one-time thing. The next day, our youngest child woke up in the middle of the night screaming. He'd been stabbed in the leg with a knife.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
That got out of control fast. He also woke up with his head shaved again. So that means the hair grew back and then got reshaved. We were all terrified and completely clueless about what was happening.
That's
Goblins. What else? That is typical goblin behavior.
Yeah, man. Totally Lord of the Rings type of stuff right there. You know, they shaved Frodo's head and then stabbed him in the leg.
And then it waited about 6 months for his hair to grow back and then got him again.
got him again.
It's like that meme. Got him.
Got him. Got him. Got him. Okay, so we sought help from different prophets and churches, but the situation only worsened after each attempt. Doors and windows would come open inexplicably. Our children's clothes, especially their uniforms, would be torn, and they could no longer attend school. We hired a spiritual healer for a cleansing ceremony. The following day, the house mysteriously burned down, but only the bedrooms were affected. Everything in the kitchen and dining room was untouched. Again, poltergeist activity, fires.
Goblins.
Goblins.
What do you...
I want to call it poltergeist.
No, man.
Okay.
It's straight... So I have to wonder, though, in Zimbabwe, if goblins are part of their folklore, much like... I think it's like, wasn't it like the Norwegians or whatever? They like trolls.
Oh yeah.
You know, like legitimately trolls, man. They're a thing.
We need to ask that one coworker because she's from
she's got Norwegian roots.
Roots, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to get her advice. Before we conclude, there's this one part at the end, and it's talking about how there's kind of this mass hysteria, a history of this mass hysteria, and they mention a whole bunch of stories. Let me see. For example, okay, hold on. Let me read.
Well, I see in March of 2023.
These attacks are also very similar to reported attacks by spiritual forces, and many of the same phenomena are often attributed to being haunted by ghosts or poltergeists. In March of 2023, nearly 30 girls in Colombia were taken to the hospital after playing with a Ouija board. The school had reportedly suffered many anxiety attacks after using the divinatory device at school. You gotta stop that. You gotta nip it in the butt. Trust me. I know from experience.
I think it's bud. I don't think it's butt.
No, but from experience, these kids, man, they like playing around with this stuff. And you gotta stop it.
How did you get so far in life, man?
I don't know.
Nip it in the bud. Because if you're nipping in the butt, what is that?
Like you nip, you say, okay, stop that. You pinch them. You tell them to stop. Okay. The students had reportedly suffered anxiety attacks after using the divinatory device at school. Less than 6 months prior, in November of 2022, 11 teens, ranging in age from 13 to 17, were found by teachers after having collapsed in a hallway at Agricultural Technical Institute in Hato, Colombia, following an incident in which they reportedly used a Ouija board. Claims of mass possession or afflictions by spirits are relatively common, particularly in developing countries, and several such incidences. I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, when you mess with the board, what do you expect? I mean, but also 13 to 17-year-olds. Did anyone think to take a little glass mirror and hold it up to their nose just to see if they're still just faking it, perhaps, and then just going, okay, go ahead and get up, or else here's more. You know what I mean? Because I bet if I was there, it would be like, okay, you have exactly 3 seconds to stand up on your own feet before it goes down, like Thanos rain fire on them, right? And I imagine quite a few of them would become unpossessed in that moment in time and stand up on their own 2 feet. Yeah. I mean, 13 to 17-year-olds can't be trusted anyway.
Now, if you guys don't remember, in episode 3, I told you my story about working at a boarding school, and the first time that I became aware of the paranormal activity was when I overheard a group of boys talking about how they used a Ouija board in their dorm rooms, and weird stuff was happening, and you gotta stop it, or it'll spread.
You know what popped in my mind right now when you said all that? Scar was right, man. From the Lion King.
Yeah.
The youth today.
You
can't trust them. Can't trust them. God bless you. That's why you teach high school, man. So they're probably back here messing around with Ouija boards back here.
There could be.
I'm
so tired. Like they probably are. I haven't seen them. I'm like.
Here we go. Well, if something starts going down, if that little dude behind you starts moving, then maybe start looking for some boards in here, man.
Yeah, I'll check the closet too. See, never know.
Yeah, never know. Well, Mr. Jackson, are we out of stories?
We're out of stories, man.
Fabulous Teachers Lounge episode.
The best.
I like it in here. It's cozy.
It's cozy.
We got a nice drinking fountain. This fern looks phenomenal. You've been watering it.
I have.
Just trying to picture. I have a thing against bamboo, so I'm looking at that with disgusting
Well,
hatred.
it's actually a metaphor, okay? Because if you don't know, I use it at the beginning of the school year as a metaphor because I teach my kids that right now they're building their foundation for the rest of their lives. And in order to have the biggest building, you have to have a strong foundation. And if you don't know about bamboo, when you plant it, it takes a long time to sprout up because it's spreading its root systems out really far and deep. And it goes so deep that it's almost impossible to take it out.
Yep.
And then once it's done spreading its roots, it grows rapidly tall, like 3 feet a year.
Yeah.
And so I kind of
No,
want
I
my
know.
kids to be like bamboo.
Yeah, my whole backyard property is lined with
Oh, yeah.
bamboo, I guess planted 30 years ago, and it's just a slog. It is established, and we're not getting rid of it.
You just have to salt the earth at that point, like in the Simpsons episode.
Salty. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, man. But let's close out. So where can people find us? The new subscribers?
Dude, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Our Facebook group is really big,
It's
so join
really
that.
big, yeah, and
It's
it
bigger than the
continues-
Facebook channel. But
Yep.
guys, on the Facebook group, I'll be honest with you, not a lot of you guys have moved over to the YouTube channel. I need you guys to move over to the YouTube channel. Okay? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Please, please, please. Your every subscription helps us grow. I actually had, you'll like this, a therapist come up here today and ask us about the podcast. We go way back, as I'm finding as I get older. And she said, so tell me about the podcast. I explained to her a little bit about your episode and my episode, and she literally got an audible chill. And as soon as she left, I got on the group, and she had immediately joined. And so, yeah, it's good stuff, man. But yeah, we need you all to move over to YouTube. Please and thank you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Well, again, I'm your host, Mr. Zach. Alongside me is my cohort in all things supernatural and strange, and amateur investigator and wonderful husband, Mr. Joel Jackson. And this is Beyond the Bill Podcast.